Hey everybody, and welcome to another chart reading group. Tonight we are working with the chart of Rowen. That's exciting. Before we start, let's just quickly introduce ourselves. My name is Damien. I'm an Aquarius Sun, a Leo Moon, and a Taurus Ascendant.
My name is Michaelin. I am an Aquarius Sun, a Libra Moon, and a Libra Ascendant.
Okay. Hi, my name is Rowen, and I have a Leo Sun, a Aquarius Ascendant, and Taurus Moon.
Hi, I'm
Hi.
Renita. Oh,
Yeah, go ahead.
yes. Okay. Hi, I'm Renita, and I have a Scorpio rising, a Virgo sun, and a moon in Aquarius.
Okay, I am Antoinette. I have a Pisces sun, a Cancer moon, and a Scorpio rising. Like Renita.
My name is Gianna, and I have a Gemini Sun, Cancer Moon, and Virgo Rising.
It's interesting hearing it all out loud. Actually, we're all sort of starting to click into little groups here. We've got our Aquarius faction going at one part, all fixed signs. We've got these water signs, all water-earth combinations as well. It's something that's, the more we've been doing this, the more it's been occurring to me that I don't know if it's the way the course content or something. It seems to attract people who within particular elemental groups, and we see it again and again when we do this introduction. It's really, really interesting. So I just had this comment with one of the students actually who'd done an assignment. So here we are. We're doing it again. We're having this similar sort of thing happening here. We've got these energy groups that are forming. This is Rowan's chart. We were just talking about it before. We had two differences. One where we had an 8-degree ascendant, and one we had what was it, 23 degrees, but we have not been able to work out why. Antoinette, you found was it a 28-degree ascendant or 23-degree? Do you have any idea why that difference might have come up?
29, because
29. Okay.
29, because when I was looking for the city, it gave me 4 options. It
Right.
gave me Tachikawa, the Air Force. It gave me Umomata or Kumamoto,
Yeah.
and 2 cities in Kyoto. So I wasn't sure.
Wow.
So I just took the one reflected the chart that you had put up, Michaelin, with the Capricorn 29 degrees. And I really like that chart, because I thought, whoa. But if it's 8 degrees, if it's the Air Force base, well, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Cool. All right. Well, we've settled on the 8-degree one. I think we're all in agreement with
That's the
that.
correct. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, cool, cool. Well, look, let me just go through the tail of the tape, as they call it, starting from the top. When we look at just as a bit of a spoiler, the other areas, the other quadrants are pretty similar. They're pretty balanced. But when we get to the sign modalities, we've got 5 in cardinal. We've got an overwhelming 17 points in fixed. We got a lot of fixed energy in this chart, and we've got 1 in mutable. And it's interesting because last month we did the chart for Kristen. That's right, my memory's awful this morning. And she had very, very strong mutable in her chart too. So it's interesting to follow one with the other. So when we look at the elements, we see that they're pretty much balanced. We've got a high point of 8 and we've got a low point of 4, and we've got a spread in between that. And we've got 6, 5, 6 in house modalities as well. So that's pretty, all the static stuff on the chart is pretty much balanced. But when we get to the sign modalities themselves, everything skews out. And we've got a splay type chart here today. I thought I'd add that in too. We might as well just add this from now on too, because it does have some bearing on the way that we read a chart here. So what we've got are these clusters of planets spread out across the chart, and splay charts are quite interesting to read. Especially in this case, we've got so much fixed energy in this chart too. And I'm really curious to see how that plays out. Generally with splayed charts, what we have are people who've got areas in their life where they invest quite a bit of energy and things like that. And they're like almost they can be almost like separate lives that are all lived in different areas. Some people compartmentalize, some people switch between them. Some people tend to focus more on the others and then pay attention to those other groups when they start to feel an absence of invested energy and things like that too. So that's what we've got here today. In this particular case, we've got a lot of fixed energy. So I'm very, very curious to see how that plays out there tonight. Rowan, perhaps you could tell us, I'm very curious about this, so you could tell us a little bit about yourself. It might give us a bit of grounding in this. Maybe start with your journey from Tachikawa to Albuquerque, where you live now. Would you maybe tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Let's see. My parents were in the military out in the Air Force Base, and we've actually moved. This is my 30th address so far. It's been across, let's see, Japan and then 5 or 6 different states. And we've moved a lot. And I don't have a career. I'm actually disabled and no kids. So, but I've studied a lot. I like studying. So that's one of my biggest things. I love music. Let's see. So Megan, is there something else I could touch on?
No, I think that's a lot of the big stuff. Does anybody else have any questions they want to add to that or anything?
Yeah, quick question. Which house system is being used? I'm just a little
This is
unfamiliar. So
Placidus.
this is Placidus. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Well, there's a lot going on in this chart. Is anything jumping out for anybody? Does anybody want to start? Get the ball rolling?
I
Well,
see
you
there's a
did say it
lot
was
going.
Gianna, what you got?
Um, Rowan, I'm sorry if you answered this, if you mentioned this, but do you have any siblings?
I don't. I'm an only child.
What were you going to say, Antoinette?
That's interesting question because I was gonna ask. I just assumed that she had. So it's very good that one should actually ask because, when she said she was an only child. So
Mm.
that's very interesting to me because I see something here with siblings. And I
I think
wondered
I
if
see the same. Yeah.
Why don't you guys talk about that? You sometimes, what you're saying there may be a different way of expressing, you may be right, but in a different way, something like that. You're saying there's energy invested in a particular area. Let's explore that. What are your thoughts on that?
on the third house, maybe it could be the neighborhood, the different neighborhoods where she's lived, or she's got friends that were like family.
Hmm.
Possible.
I'm
That's
seeing
it.
the opposition with Pluto. I'm looking at a whole sign chart, whole house chart though, and so that
Okay.
might differ a little bit, but I'm kind of seeing like there's a yeah, there's like an opposition with
Mars.
there seems to be something highlighting either an insecurity or some sort of pain as it relates to being an only child.
You're talking about in
Maybe.
conjunction to Mars, in opposition to Mars in whole house?
In the whole house chart I'm looking at, there's a Chiron is opposing
Okay.
Pluto.
There's opposing Pluto. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Well, that moves to Uranus and Placidus. So, and it's interesting. I mean, people talk about there are 2 malefics in astrology, Pluto and Saturn. But I sometimes entertain the thought that if there was a third one, it'd be Uranus anyway. I mean, Uranus comes with a lot of good stuff, but it also comes with a lot of unexpected, unwanted things as well. I mean, I kind of looked at it as You know what I mean? So maybe that opposition in itself is something worth exploring as well, or things we cannot control. And sometimes in some particular chart setups too, that can have a not a malefic effect, but it can be just an element of chaos that a person's not equipped to deal with, or triggers them to behave in certain ways. So, okay.
So the seventh house having the sun and Mercury, and they're both in Leo. I think that's a fortunate little placement there. And
Mm,
maybe that's an indication that everybody that maybe she doesn't have siblings by blood, you know what I mean? But maybe she considers a lot of people like her sister or close enough to be a sibling. Maybe she's got, since she has moved around a lot, she's probably made a lot of friends and maybe formed a lot of close connections. So maybe that's it. Maybe not natural siblings, like from the same parents, but maybe people that are considered, you love them like a sister,
Right.
possibly.
I guess you're going to go
So
one
maybe
of
that's
two ways, aren't you? You're either going to open yourself up to each new experience, or you're just not going to attach to people because
That's
everything's so
true.
transient. So
mhm.
if those were the two options, would you say you went one way or the other, Ron? Would you say that you embraced each new opportunity or kind of detached?
Um, Probably a combination of the two. There's something about almost every place I can tell you that I was very fond of, but
Mm,
I was also always ready to move. So
yeah.
And that's that Aquarius rising. Just
I can
that's
see
my
that.
opinion.
How long have you been in Albuquerque for now?
2 years.
3 years. Okay, so you're still on the
Two.
move now, or 2 years. So you're still in a
Yes.
constant cycle of movement now.
Since we're planning already to move probably in about 3 or 4 years, pretty much,
Okay,
yeah.
all right. God, and you've got all this fixed energy on your chart as well. This incredible amount of fixed energy.
Maybe that could be the search
I could do. That's
for
okay.
stability.
I can see that very easily. Um, I'll also throw one more thing that might be, I really only attended school for, like, actually went to school for about 5, 6 years or so. The rest of it was home study. And even when I studied like Udemy, for example, or my high school was mostly in study too.
Hmm. Was
So
that a
that would be
comfortable
Jupiter.
transition from you? Were you comfortable moving from, because I'm assuming when you say school, you were going to different schools in different places, and then you started learning at home. Was that a comfortable transition for you, or do you feel you lost something from that?
Actually, let me just really, I was in home until I was 5. And then
Yeah.
we stayed in Riverside, California for about 10 years, but we moved 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We moved 6 times while we were there
Wow. Okay. In California.
in California. Well, just in Riverside by itself. That was just
Okay.
Riverside.
Oh, good Lord.
And so I went to school from the time I was 5 until about 12. And then I did home study. And I graduated from high school when I was 16.
Okay.
I would have liked that. No, school for me was such a stress, let me tell you.
It
But
is,
well,
isn't it? It really is. All the things we don't really want to learn, and with a little bit that we do.
but at
And
homeschool,
then
it's
there's
not
all
like
that interpersonal drama on top of that, going on too with
Exactly.
other people.
yeah.
Yep.
But Jupiter sitting on your ascendant is why you are so good at everything that you do. And being in the 12th house, I guess it is in the 12th house, isn't it? It's sitting right there on the ascendant. Is that at four
Yeah.
degrees,
Yeah.
you
Four
guys?
degrees.
Yeah, so Jupiter, like I said, expands, and so that tells me that being that close to your ascendant, everything that you put your hand in or everything that you try to learn or um, um, anything along those lines, you're going to have success because Jupiter is a very fortunate planet. And with that Aquarius rising, Aquarius is an air sign and analytical and geniuses, basically. I'm just saying. And then with Jupiter right there, it amplifies that genius in you, which gives you
Yeah,
the
I saw
ability
Ju
to study you can study at school or you can study at home or wherever you study, you're going to absorb the information and you're going to be able to learn and apply the information. So yeah, that's what I see as far as Jupiter and where it sits and your rising sign. That's the main thing that jumps out at me.
I love study. That's good.
when I saw Jupiter also, when I saw it at the first house, I thought that higher learning and study and traveling and moving was also going to be very important to her. And since she had 4 planets in air signs, that the intellectual part and the social and the communication, being in touch with people would also be very important, you know?
It is, yeah.
So great. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because I'm still
So
stuck on the other chart that I was looking at before because I saw the nodes in the 12th house and the 6th house.
Okay.
But now it's in the 11th and the 5th. And I'll tell you why. Because with the south node in Cancer, I thought it was in the 6th house. So I was going to mention themes of looking after family members who might have been ill in a previous life.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
but anyway, it doesn't matter. It still means the same thing. And I saw those nodes and I thought that's important, that's interesting. And with the north node ruler conjunct the south node, so that there was necessarily something from past life that needed to be repeated in this life so that you could learn to be independent, because in a past life you were very dependent upon family, and this lifetime now you have to learn to be independent in a certain way and to be responsible for yourself, and there are certain limits,
Yeah.
and mastery and authority that you've had to do in this lifetime. So that's what I saw.
That's interesting.
Can I just say one more thing? Because I saw something else too. Venus and Pluto are the only conjunction. Am I right? Apart from Saturn and the South Node? Such a tight conjunction.
Yeah, it's very tight conjunction.
Yeah. And then I saw 13 degrees Mercury and the moon. But anyway, I saw the conjunction and I was hit with that, because it's so powerful. So
I'm sorry, which one was that?
Venus conjunct Pluto in the 8th
Right
house.
house.
Oh, okay.
Just looking
So
at
like,
aspect placements and things like that, that conjunction's important, but it's also the point of the T-square as well between Saturn and the North Node, but in the 5th and the 11th houses.
oh, I didn't even see that.
So that's
For
very,
real.
very, very powerful. And that Mars that was mentioned before is the point of a Yod between, again, that Pluto and Neptune up there in the 10th house. So that Mars and that very, very powerful planets are in major aspects. And there's also another T-square there running off between Mercury, your ascendant, and that's pointing down to the moon there in the 3rd house with that Mars. So it's interesting, everybody's eyes went to that 3rd house and that 2nd house. I think and that Pluto up the top there, they're all look like major players in this chart. It's funny, when you talk about past lives, from an esoteric point of view, you look at the sun, the moon, the ascendant. I'm baffled by that Leo moon there in the 7th house, in a present life context. You know what I mean? So as we're going through this, I'm waiting to hear indications of how that Leo may have asserted itself or presented itself, or if it just got swallowed up into a lot of other more powerful groups that are happening in the chart. But from an esoteric astrology point of view, the sun is the present incarnation. It's what we're here to do in this lifetime. So I'm just curious to see how that presents itself in this whole process too. But that moon, that Mars and that Pluto conjunct Venus, especially up the top there in the 8th house, they're very, 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 very powerful players in this chart. If I've been a little quiet on this, I'm just trying to get a
No,
working
see,
model for this in my head.
you're right. I also saw that there was a whole lot of things that had to do with relationships,
Yeah.
because Sun in the 7th, Pluto conjunct Venus in Libra, Uranus in Libra as well. So the theme about relationships and then relationships within the family, I thought that was but looking at this, I didn't even see the T square and that they would be the apex planets and they're square in the nodes. So it may have, all of it has to do with that. So, and the belief system, the beliefs around relationships and family and all of that. That's what I thought really, really was important, even more important than the South Node. I saw all those planets in Libra, and then the Sun in the 7th, like repeating themes, and then seeking total transformation in the 8th house.
Gotcha.
And again, we're
I've never
looking at it
studied
from a
that. That's
past life
interesting.
perspective. Sorry, what were you saying?
I was just saying I've never studied that. That's interesting.
Well, see, that's the thing too. And when you look at this again from a karmic perspective, from a past life perspective, you've moved 30 times in your life. You've been given all this fixed energy. In this particular lifetime, I mean, what are you supposed to do with that? I'm at this stage, I'm baffled. There's and again with the splay chart, we've got these particular clusters on the chart, and we've got T squares pointing to key players, and all of those are a Yod right down there at the bottom too. So there's something going on. There's something obviously very, very important. That Pluto was a very, very big part of it. It's connected to pretty much everything that's going on, other than that T square going to the moon down the bottom there. But that Pluto and that Mars are really, really important on this chart. There's a lot of emphasis on communication with that 3rd house energy going down to Mars, with Mercury there as part of that T square with the moon. So maybe that's a way, an old pattern in the past, from a past life point of view, may have been a lack of communication or an unwillingness, a stubbornness and unwillingness to yield and communicate with other people. And maybe that's a key to it in this part, in this particular life. This communication is something that's highlighted again. So, and we've got, when Saturn and Pluto are in a T square together pointing to the North Node, then that's a pattern that really needs to be paid attention to, because that's quite a narrow path. It's quite explicit, really. But with all this eighth house energy up the top there, we're talking about death, transformation. It's about being dependent on others to a degree. So it's interesting that you had that perspective before, Antoinette, that in a past life she may not have been independent, and needs to cultivate it in this lifetime. That's almost saying the opposite. In this lifetime, maybe she does need to be dependent on other people and less independent from a past life point of view. What were you going to say, Sandra?
Sorry, I was just eating. I really feel like the Jupiter in the 12th house is really important here. It feels like she needed to so there is that genius in Aquarius, but the inner expansion, because it's Jupiter retrograde, and so it's like she needed to do all of that moving around, because she can't get too comfortable in other people's energy and other people's company, because this is all about her inner genius and discovering those answers for herself. That's in trying to, and again, you know, the isolation, the needing to learn by herself. That, you know, she came out of school and she said she's done most of her study in distance learning since then. And that's in trying to her Pluto and Venus there in the 8th house. So that's, you know, that's working in harmony with that level of transformation that she's here to undertake with regards to being dependent on other people. But then it's in square to that Mars and Moon in the 3rd house. So it can, I guess, make it more difficult for her to communicate with with the outside world in the way that she would like to, which again then is part of that Yod. So just for me, I feel like Jupiter is the driver in a lot of this.
I can feel that.
Yeah.
Do you feel lucky? Do you feel you've been lucky through your life?
Me?
Yes. Or
Yes.
has luck been a factor?
As I mentioned, I have a disability which keeps me at home a lot.
Yeah.
And I've had somebody who's really helped me with that, and that is very lucky. Even right now, they still help me. So, yeah. And also, I've loved that the internet's come out because
Yes,
it wasn't
Yes.
there.
technology.
Yeah. Mhm. So yeah, I would say
And
yes.
there's your Aquarius. That's your Aquarius and Jupiter again. That luck coming through through modern technology that makes your life different than it possibly would have been otherwise.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's interesting that, and you pointed out that retrograde as well in the 12th house. I mean, Jupiter's the planet of luck, but that's saying, yeah, there's luck, but you don't really know how it works. Or you just know when it's not working. And it does play a big factor in your life. It's something that comes through again and again. And we can substitute that word philosophy for belief systems. We have belief systems, we have philosophies and things like that. We're not quite sure how they work, but we feel them in our lives. And they assert themselves again and again. I'm always interested in powerful planets in the 12th house because they bring something to the chart, but we just don't seem to control it. We just seem to know when it's working and when it's not working. Maybe, I don't know if you're superstitious. I don't know if there was a dripping tap in the house, if you'd be counting the drops subconsciously when they come down. Things like that. I'm just thinking of different ways that you may try and control or measure that luck in your life, you know, and it'll be at a mental or psychological level. Your mind's going to be looking, you know, the pattern recognition part of the brain's going to activate for that, I think. I don't know. I'm seeing myself when I say that. So
I can throw numerology and astrology into that probably.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you're looking for causality?
I'm sorry?
You're looking for causality? Is that one of the things that drives your research and your study?
Causality. I'm not sure. More like the luck aspect.
Okay.
Like, for example, I named my pets and I made sure we all had the same soul number so we could have that emotional connection.
Okay, cool.
Or I'm looking at astrocartography so that possibly one of these moves will end up sticking.
Yep.
Yeah.
What are you most proud of? Is this something you've achieved or done or something that you're proud of?
Probably 3 things. One of them would be my dogs. Love my dogs.
Yep.
My education. I love studying and I'm proud of being able to study. And the way I've handled my disability, I think I'm proud of because it's something that's unusual and the doctors can't help much. And so I put that in there too.
Okay. They might be. I asked the word pride because that's connected to Leo, I guess, and I'm wondering what the tool is you've been given in this lifetime, because you've got some big, some tough energy on your chart, and but you've been given Leo to manage it in this lifetime, I guess, and pride might be one of those ways that that plays out. Yeah.
One thing that like keeps sticking up out for me though is this it's like a loose opposition, but like Chiron opposing Pluto and also Uranus, and I'm wondering if like the various moves have been triggered by a need to change in some way, or like not feeling kind of settled and like always kind of looking for like this like transformation and like using different locations as a form of transformation.
Mhm. I think that's
Or like
possible. Yeah.
yeah.
Different, mostly I moved where other people wanted to go. But I think that when we moved there, yes, it was used for that.
I think that explains the eighth house a lot.
Yeah.
Other people's money, other people's circumstances, and you've kind of been swept up in that. And that may be influencing that Chiron down there in the second house. Yeah, it's a really interesting placement. But again, too, it seems to be pivotal to what you're doing. Saturn's there, if we look at it from a past life point of view, wherever Saturn is a big key indicator of where karma is playing out in your life. So, and that's down in your fifth house. So that's part of that T square. And that Yod's telling you to invest that energy in that Mars down there in that third house. So, but it looks like maybe that's the key to unlocking that eighth house is probably the obvious, that it's been all these moves that keep happening in your life that you don't really have control over. You're connected to other people's circumstances in that regard. And that's been catalytic in a lot of ways for you to find yourself, I guess. And maybe that's the way you've been expressing that fixed energy, is that it's created a burning desire to find a constant in all of that and to nurture and grow that.
Mhm. I can see that. Yeah.
Mars and Taurus. Anybody got any insight on how a Mars and Taurus, because that's not the best placement, is the point of a Yod. Anybody got any insights on how that just might play out?
I always, he's very determined because if Mars in a Earth sign, he doesn't feel happy because he can't go up, he can't rise up. It's not fire, so he has to make an extra effort
Yep.
and be very determined. But he's ruled by Venus, so
Yep.
he will do it because he loves what he's doing.
Yeah.
So that's how I see that. Mars in Taurus, like I'm fixed, it's like I'm so determined, I'm going to persevere and very resilient, and the self-confidence that you're supposed to get from Taurus. I see that that's good. That needs to be worked on as well, because Taurus is second house stuff at the same time, but there's Chiron in the second house.
Yeah.
In Aries as well. So Mars is the rule of Chiron. So it's the independent action, that she wants to come in to heal, while at the same time she had to be dependent on others, and is dependent on someone else, the seventh house. So she's come to heal that by being, what better time than the eclipses that are going on now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got
And
a
the
really
good thing
powerful.
is that, yeah. Sorry, is it because I saw that in the when Jupiter is in Gemini? So there's a great there's a air trine going on in her chart, which is reflecting all her planets in air. So there's something that's going to expand and grow, and it has to do with learning as well, and and moving and intellect, expanding intellectually. So that's going to give her a lot of, because Pluto is also coming through the AC into Aquarius. So, it's going to trine Venus, trine Pluto, trine Uranus. So everything is like, at last we're going to be able to breathe and to blossom in a certain way. Isn't that a budgie? A canary?
Sorry, that's a baby
Actually,
bird outside expecting to be fed by its parents. And when you look at it, it's not a baby. It's big. It can fend for itself. Yeah, it's out. Sorry, I'll shut that next time.
Oh, Casito.
When you were telling that story, Antoinette, I got a really powerful vision of the story of Moses. They were all, when the Hebrews were all enslaved in Egypt by Pharaoh, and then that power got broken and they went into the wild. They moved, that story you were talking about, Mars moving from the second house to the third house, out into the wild, having to fend for themselves, having to be at the beck and call of other greater forces around them. And it was a trial of faith, endurance, and stamina, having to work twice as hard in order to find a promised land. Their faith tested every step of the way, and both being led by Moses and being pursued by Pharaoh at the same time, and having to figure out who they were and maintain their faith the whole time it was happening. It's rare I get that, but I got a really vivid image of that in my mind when you were telling that story of that Mars. Normally happy in that second house, moved out into the third, and there's the expectation of pain there in the second. And maybe that in a way is a way this is expressing, so it is all about that. That Yod's telling us that the greatness will happen in that transition and that struggle in the third house, to find your voice, to find your strength, and to persevere, as you put it, which is such a difficult energy to work with, perseverance, because, yeah. It's like they say about muscle, it takes so much work to get it, but it only takes 3 weeks to lose it. So
heard that.
yeah, and that seems to be what that story is. So in order to maintain that, it's all about will. I hear people talk about how dumb bodybuilders are, but the level of will required in order to maintain who they are and what they do is astonishing, So
Yeah,
yeah,
it's even harder than, it's harder than being in Aries.
yeah,
It's like I really just have to try double hard and I have to do it nicely, Venus.
yeah,
I have to be.
yeah.
And then she's had her Chiron return, Rowan,
Yep, still
and
going
it's
on.
retrograde.
Yep. Yep.
It's at 21 degrees today, and then it's going to go back and touch Chiron again.
Yep.
So
I
there's going to be a healing. Yeah.
Yeah. I've had some very good things from the Chiron return. Yeah.
Good for you.
Tell us a little bit about what you've found in that.
Let's see. We were living in North Carolina and we moved when it first touched into Aries, we moved back to Seattle where I needed some medical assistance. And I was able to get at the university there. And when it came back in the second time, they started the process actually of putting me on a permanent disability rather than just a temporary, which I had been on for years. And it just made things more stable. It got me better medical insurance. It made everything else more stable. And I started in Udemy and started taking these classes. And so, yeah, I moved to Albuquerque. That was there too. So it's brought some good things.
Great.
And with Mars sitting right there, it's keeping you motivated. So right in between Chiron and the moon, it looks like it's helping to keep you motivated.
I see that, yeah. Motivation can be hard.
Oh yeah, yeah. All right, you guys want to talk about, is that Neptune in the 10th house? Is that, talk about how that might be playing out? Or does that even
Because
look
that's
like
the
it's
point of a
something?
second yacht. I just noticed that now when you said it.
Yes. Hmm.
My God, yes.
I think she actually has 3 odds, doesn't she? Or is it just 2? It's hard to tell. Maybe it is just 2.
2 yards.
2 odds, yes.
Well,
I mean, that's
yeah,
enough.
yeah.
Yeah.
I've got 1 yard and I'm like, no, I don't want to. Not that it's a bad thing, it's just challenging.
Okay.
Or it can be challenging in my experience. So is it Saturn and Mars that are pointing up to Neptune in the 10th house? Is that what you see, Damien?
Yeah, I do.
Uh-huh.
Oh no, that I think that's the north node. Sorry, the
Oh, is
south
it?
node in the fifth house. South
Okay,
node.
okay, okay. Okay, well, whew.
Yeah, I know you Saturn involved in that. I think you got enough
A
struggle
little
with that.
Saturn in there.
Mars down
Right.
there.
There's another house.
If I was to read that like a story, it talks about, in a past life. When you look at the moon in esoteric astrology as an indicator of past life energy. So in the past life, you may not have done much, you may not have moved much, you may have enjoyed luxury. You know what I mean? You might have been a bit lazy, all of that sort of stuff. And the south node up there, that's resurrected some of that in it, but some of that, there's always good that comes from a past life. If we look at it from an esoteric point of view, every life has purpose. Every life we live is supposed to give us something. So, and I see some people when they look at past life energy in the chart, it's something you've got to cut loose and get rid of. But there's always a gift, I think, in every past life. Something that you were supposed to cultivate, and then you lose the dross or the unnecessary stuff. It's like when you forge something, you'll always have that excess around the outside that you clean away in order to get the gift at the bottom there. So there's something in the past life. It's linked to Cancer. It's linked to nurturing energy. It's linked to manifesting. I think with Cancer is excellent at manifesting, while Taurus loves to be manifested. You know what I mean? They love their comforts, they love their beautiful things. So there's a relationship there, and they're both pointing up to the 10th house. So that's talking about career potential. They're in Sagittarius, which for somebody with such a so much fixed energy in a chart is a bit of a challenge. But then I always look at Sagittarius as a story of 2 parts. It's the prodigal son. It's the one who went out into the wild and did whatever they wanted, spent all their money, and then they came back with all their knowledge and experience. And I think maybe that knowledge and that experience, even the knowledge and experience you've accumulated in this lifetime, in itself has value. And maybe that's what the 10th house is up there. You've been cultivating this because you've been given a lot of work to do in this lifetime. And maybe that's just the work itself is the point of that yod. The willingness to do the work with that Mars down there at the bottom, and then that converts that willingness into a form of currency, for want of a better word, something that has value, and something that can be shared, something that can be used to define you and your experiences in your life and all of that, up there in the 10th house. In Sagittarius. So I guess we're looking at it from the higher octave of Sagittarius, not the wandering, do what they want, philandering Sagittarius we hear so much about. But the one that's been there, done that, come back and got the experience. So that's one take on that. That's maybe a way I see it. They're connected. When you've got 2 yods connected like that, they belong together.
Very cool.
And it's
I'm
interesting
definitely
'cause,
going to be looking at Yods after this.
Oh,
yeah.
definitely. You
Well,
definitely
you've
should.
got two,
'Cause,
right? And two of them, they're connected to each other. They both
mm,
fall into each other. I've never seen that before.
yeah, it's pretty neat. And the yacht is called the Finger of God, correct?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's an order.
Hmm. Yes, it is.
And the-
Something to do, huh?
Mhm.
See, even those
Def-
T-squares, somehow they have a symmetry to them, don't they?
yeah, Mystic
It's not,
Rectangle. Do you see that? It's
No, I don't. Where are you seeing it, Michael?
maybe I'm not
use a
seeing it. Maybe
cursor.
say again.
Use your cursor to show. Can you?
Oh, I'm hosting
Uh,
this. Which
All
no,
planet?
it
right.
looks like what I was looking at was down here in the third house between
Yeah.
Mars, and then it goes over to the south node, and then it goes. But what it's doing is it's going into the yod that I was looking at with Neptune, and I thought that was a blue line, but it is a green line.
Green.
So yes, which is the yod. The green is the yod, and then the blue is
Okay.
the trine, and the red is the square, and then the opposition is that it looks like it's dotted actually.
Well, there's definitely something that has to be communicated with Mars as the apex of a yard in the third house.
Mm.
Like energetically communicated or said quickly or done. And it's and the south node rule is in the third house as well. So it's very important, that third house.
Okay.
And then the ruler is in the eighth house. There's something, there's like a whole part of you that's very
Mhm.
powerful. Because when I see Pluto with Venus, I think of the dark feminine archetype, like, and rich, because obviously you will stand to inherit
Mhm.
your family legacy. You have Taurus on the fourth house. So that will maybe that's something having to do, Pluto is also past life.
Mhm.
And then Uranus is there. Uranus is a ruler of the ascendant.
Yeah.
And I found out something this week that sometimes we trigger crisis in our lives, like Virgo is crisis, so that we
Mhm.
can transform.
Yeah.
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 Like we look for these power plays or power struggles or difficult relationships.
Mhm. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that sun in the seventh house needs to be seen, wants to be seen, and would like to have a partner or a business partner or something, because that's where you're going to be able to share,
Mhm.
Mercury, who you are. So you need a platform of some kind, maybe, to speak about who you are and what your life is, where you can reach a public.
I've never even thought about that really. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
well,
Which part in particular about talking about your experiences?
I'm sorry?
Which part of that had you not thought of, talking about your experiences, sharing that with people?
Yeah. I keep journals and stuff like that, but I've never thought about like talking publicly or anything like that. Or even posting it actually. Yeah.
yeah, because you have the North Node in the 11th house, and the 11th house has to do with groups of people. It has to do with technology and sharing your experiences with others. And you have Uranus in the 8th house, so you've had a lot of transformations, and you know,
Mhm.
but you've done it all in a Libra way. with beauty and grace and love and art. So it's something that you can share. You can just read something from your journal and then have a small life reflection, kind of help people who are in the same situation as you, or inspire people, because it has to do with speaking, talking, sharing information. Would be.
And Jupiter sitting on your ascendant is going to, like I said, is going to give you that luck in anything that you do. So
and expand. Yeah, expand the knowledge.
Okay.
Also, I think that that T square is the one at the bottom. So you've got your Jupiter in Aquarius, so that's in the retrograde, so that's your inner workings. You're figuring it all out for yourself, but then you've got that opposing your Mercury in Leo. So that's your need to communicate from your heart. And then that's the breaking point of that is your needs, your moon in your third house. So your need to be out there in the world and communicating with the world. So it's like you get to have all of this time alone to really understand the inner workings of it. And I feel like I feel like there's a spiritual overview that you have access to of your disability or disability in general, and that's what I'm reading that from the Neptune in the 10th house, and so that's a part of your purpose is to do that inner work, achieve that inner genius and understanding of your situation, and then be able to communicate that from the heart out into the wider world.
I think
and Mars,
you've just sorry, go Michael.
And Mars down there next to the moon, to further expand on what Sandra is saying, is going to help keep you motivated. So just don't you worry. Jupiter and Mars are going to have your back.
Good.
Go ahead, Damien.
What I was going to say, I think Sandra, you've just put the last piece in the puzzle for me, because I can see these yods, I can see all these other patterns, and I'm looking at again from a past life point of view. I guess I look for a story in the chart, a way that of a particular course that we've been given and a way to do things. I can see the potential outcomes. I can see that you've been given all of these experiences to share with other people. I just can't see why you would. That's the thing I've been looking for, but I think Sandra's nailed it. There's so much intellectual energy in this chart. There's so much fixed energy in this chart. You could stay where you are and keep doing what you're doing. You could rationalize and intellectualize your life, look for, anything like that. But Sandra's saying, and your sun is in Leo in this lifetime. You need to find your heart. You need to start connecting with your heart. Your heart's the missing piece that's going to drive this engine, that's going to fuel it and provide the energy to unlock those two yods. And communication is definitely the tool, but talking from the heart. I dare say what you've got written in those journals to some greater or lesser degree is personal, and it's from the heart. It's not just a personal account of a day-to-day living. I think maybe there's a lot in there, and maybe that's got something to do with it. What you do with that's up to you. How or even if you choose to share that. But it looks like it's a catalyst, and I think maybe opening your heart's going to activate that moon energy down in the third house. That's going to provide energy to that Mars. It's going to motivate that Mars and fuel that Mars, and that's going to because I see your 8th house stuff has sorted itself out. That's already in your life. It's happening. It's there all the time, and it's happening with grace and beauty, as Michael pointed out. So the missing piece is you, and it's the heart. And when that activates, I think this machine's going to kick into life. Communication is important. Communication is a tool in it. So, and it sounds like, like you say, you've got these journals right now. It sounds like your heart is alive and it's active, but it's hidden. This is the first time we've actually seen you, Rowan. And I wonder if that's got something to do with it. Normally you turn your video off.
Mhm.
For
So
real.
yeah, yeah. And I think even just this one move today, I think, maybe that's something along that pathway too. It's opening yourself up. Um, So thank you, Sandra. I think that's it. That's put it into perspective for me. I can see what I can see now. I think I can see a why in there that wasn't there before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that Sagittarius is there with Neptune, because with the fact that you have spent your entire life moving around, so a lot of that wisdom has also come from that, and you got to experience yourself in so many different situations, which you can then bring back into that deep inner world, and discover even more that you can then bring through the heart space and out into the world.
That's probably baffled me the most, especially as the point of the yod. Neptune and Sagittarius, for somebody who's got all this fixed energy, somebody's got all this air energy. Why would you even take that risk? Because there's so much risk in that placement. You know what I mean? There's faith, and it's the world. You're inviting all of that stuff in. You're inviting the world in, and you're believing that it's going to all work out somehow. With all the rest of this chart, I just can't see why you'd do that. But then if the heart's activated and you've done the work, well, if that Mars is active and the energy's going and you're decided to persevere and you've decided to move forward and you've decided to tell your story and do your thing, then I don't think anything in that 10th house is going to scare you.
That's good.
Yeah.
She went talk about her transformations because the 10th house rule is in the 8th house beside Venus.
Yeah. And
So
look, there's sextiles running from the 10th house over to the 8th house. That's fuel for that story, isn't it?
yes, yes, for sure. And there's a talent, whatever talent, innate talent you have, you should share it also in the 10th house because that's where Neptune is. So it could be art, it could be poetry, it could be anything. When you guys were talking, I heard a song that came to, I've been so many places in my life and time.
That song.
It always happens to me, and I read in a chat, I get a song. So that's your soundtrack. A song for you.
Thank you.
Rowan,
I
were you the
listened
one
to
who uploaded those playlists, those Amazon playlists to
All right.
She was. Okay, she's already
Exactly.
been doing this.
Music.
Yeah, she's already been doing that. Yeah.
There you go. She's sharing the music with the 10th house. Okay, I get it.
Been dropping all these breadcrumbs everywhere this whole time.
Yeah.
Oh,
Interesting.
Well, that's
yes, it's incredible because
yeah, working
the
so hard to unlock
ascendant,
this, and she already knows she's been doing the work in the background, setting us all up. She's already been well underway.
yeah,
It's that Aquarius rising. That's how Aquarians do things, is they ease
yeah.
into it. You know what I mean?
But I love the Aquarius rising. It like comes out like political, or I'm one of the people, and let's be different, and definitely coming in for this for the new age. She's
Yeah, well,
definitely
and there's a lot of
here for the
thinking and
change.
sometimes overthinking. Yeah.
Yeah, we have
Yeah,
to be careful.
Yeah,
the overthinking. Yeah, all
definitely.
that air.
Yeah.
And all that fixed.
Fixed.
Is
Yes.
to hold yourself in
Yeah.
place.
Yeah.
Am I gonna change my mind?
Mhm.
Not usually.
No.
I know that's something I always remember because I've got a planet in fixed air. So I'm not changing my mind.
That's
That's all I
that's
know.
your
That's
excuse,
all I
right?
can remember.
Yep.
How have we done so far? Are we doing okay, Rowan? Have we?
Yeah, we're
Is
doing
there
really
anything?
good.
Look, I just saw something. The rule of the fifth house is Mercury. So your hobbies are, you should share those hobbies or talk about, you should be teaching as well. All the things that you've learned and you've accumulated on these years of study, you can start teaching, sharing information. Jupiter shares all the information that Gemini has accumulated. So communicating also. Do you speak other languages apart from?
I speak very little French and Japanese.
There you go. Okay. Well, you can keep studying that.
You can
Mhm.
communicate through writing these days. You can write and then it can be translated. And so you can communicate in every single language if you want to.
That's an interesting
Welcome to
idea, yeah.
2024.
Actually, that Saturn there in your fifth house too. Something I read about writers, if you want to be a real writer, they say write a page every day, whether you feel it or not. Sit down and do the work, and keep creating until it becomes second nature. You've got sextiles running from that creative Cancer Saturn up there in the fifth house, running down to that Mars down there in the third house. That's been providing the discipline in the step-by-step growth that you've been getting from that Mars. You know what I'm saying? I think from that part of the Yod, that Saturn has been sitting right there. Your creative process, your journaling, your music, all of that sort of stuff has been providing fuel for that Mars down there in the third house. Because again, too, with Mars and Taurus, if you don't have a reason to, you won't, you know. With all your fixed energy, you won't. But that creativity, I think, is the real key to moving that Mars pattern and activating that Yod. So it's just another way of emphasizing that, I guess. Like I said, I'm looking at individual placements in your chart and thinking, well, why would you bother? Why would an ordinary person bother, should I say, when it's easier not to? But you will, you're already doing it. And it's something that's been happening in the background, and it's been making you stronger. It's been building your stamina up, and your strength up. It's already happening. So yeah, it's all falling into place.
I really love hearing it put into that kind of terminology like a story. I like that.
Yeah, me too. I think I fervently believe we've authored all this at some point. We've, for some stupid reason, decided to subject ourselves to these experiences, in the absolute belief that they are going to make us better and stronger and finer. I absolutely believe that we're all the best version of ourselves we know how to be right now. And when I learned how to think like that, it made it easier for me to let go of a lot of pain and a lot of attachment I had to other people that was unhealthy.
Oh,
I've still got lots of it. Don't get me wrong. I'm still figuring all that stuff out. But that was a get out of jail. As soon as I realized everybody was just doing the best that they could with what they had at a given time, and that's what the chart is. The natal chart is a given time. It's right when we're born, and it shows us a reflection of the culmination of all our journeys before, and it's providing us with the journey now that's going to lead on to a journey somewhere else. So I guess being an Aquarius, I look for that causality. I look for the why. I look for the rewards because there have to be rewards for us in this lifetime in order to invest energy and to forego the suffering a lot of us, endure the suffering a lot of us take on, or the challenges or the stupid patterns we get ourselves into, because nothing's more human than doing the same stupid thing again and again, hoping to get different results. Nature doesn't do that. That's something we invented all by ourselves. So I look for what the payoff is, and the payoff is almost never the logical thing on a human being's chart. There's something in there that we're getting out of it. So I've been really baffled by yours, I think, but with what Antoinette said, especially with what Sandra said about that Mercury and Leo earlier, that's put it into perspective for me a lot more. And it really is about the heart. You're so mentally strong. You've got this strong undercurrent of with that fifth house there with all that Cancerian energy. And this, it sounds like with the journals and so on, I'm guessing there's a narrative, a hidden chapter of your life that's been stored away that only you're privy to, as you've tried to make sense of everything that's gone on and explored your own heart and all of that sort of stuff too. So I think I think I can see that now, you know. So that's something we've all managed to build together. So I think that's really amazing. And I think your story was a very interesting one. Yeah. Is there anything we've missed? I think we've hit all the key points on the chart, which is good.
Yep.
Yep. I think you hit everything, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. The only thing now I would just, because I was chatting with Macalyn and we're saying that, well, apart from the transits are going to open up a lot of new things too, you know, with groups of people and communication, information, knowledge, higher education, traveling, exploring, all kinds of things.
Well, I'm glad in your travels you've found us. It's been nice having you coming into these last group meetings and starting to, I can feel you getting more confident and sharing more and seeing more and things like that too. And that's something I think for all of us, we love to see and love to share that journey. We've all done it together, so we've all been been there too. So it's been really lovely having you with us, Rowan. I hope you'll keep coming, being a part of this. This is your group now. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll be hanging
Yeah, I
out.
really loved sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I really loved your playlist that you posted.
Oh, thank
And
you.
it just makes so much sense with your chart. So
Yes.
Cliff Richard, I forgot he even existed. He just had disappeared from my mind. First thing I did when I saw your play was when watched the video for Suddenly with Olivia Newton-John and Cliff Richard. Um,
Oh, my
yeah,
husband love Olivia.
I
yeah.
love those. Yeah.
I hear he still looks the same.
Really.
Cliff Richard?
I don't know. He's like he's always looked the same. He's like Peter Pan. I remember that. Would not surprise me if he looked the same now. Yeah.
They were a couple, weren't they?
I don't know.
Or not?
The song
No, or they
videos
just sang.
created the
Okay.
possibility that they could be, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lots of good stuff there. You must have, there was, I put a comment back, there was a particular summer, I think it was 1980, no, it wasn't 1984, it was around that time when that song suddenly came out. There were a whole bunch of, I remember that summer I was a kid and I remember a whole bunch of those songs. They all came out at that time, and I remember it was a really amazing summer for me. And I'm guessing it was an amazing summer for you too, because I saw a lot of those songs come up in your song list. So whatever happened back then must have been quite powerful. I think you had some wonderful
We was
experiences.
young,
Yeah,
beautiful.
that's the power of music, isn't it? It'll take you right back in a heartbeat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it
Yeah,
is.
Mm.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's when we had a lot of musicals out. The dancing and the music in the movies.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love musicals also. I really do.
yeah. Well, does anybody have any thoughts on maybe what Rowan can take forward from this if we haven't covered that already, or anything they want to put emphasis on?
Yeah, I would say that she should take her south node into her north node because the north node ruler is beside the south node. So she should take all her creativity and all her emotions, and share it in the 11th house with groups of people. And that's the reason why she has the Aquarius ascendant. It just makes sense,
Yeah.
you know, to and then put everything else there, the sun, the moon, Mars,
Yeah.
and just invite everybody to the party. Because if you do that,
Dance party.
I'll be there.
Yeah. Send us all an invite.
I know. I can't live without music,
I'm the same.
I have
Me too.
always singing and dancing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But Renee, we haven't heard from you. Where are you?
Renita?
Yeah. Um,
And Christine.
yeah, you guys said a lot of great things. I had a lot of thoughts, but it's my first time here. I'm sorry. I'm trying to acclimate.
You're
No,
doing
man, you
great.
should
You don't
speak
have.
up.
Yeah.
That's all right.
We
That's
talk
close.
too
It's
much.
lovely having you.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, we're glad you're here. We're glad you're here.
Mhm.
You can go back to listen. You don't have to say a word. But we're glad when you do.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. We're just recognizing you. We know you're there.
Thank
We didn't see Rowan for the first 6 months, so at least we get to see your face.
Okay. That makes me feel better. And
Yeah.
yeah, eventually.
Well, that
Well, I
was
think we're
awesome, you
reading for you
guys.
next, so we're going to go from 0 to 20 straight away, 0 to 100 in the next
She'll
month.
be ready. She'll be
Yeah.
ready by next month. Yeah, definitely. She'll be mentally ready, right? She'll have it all visualized and she'll know what she knows what she's in for, so.
Mhm.
Well, look,
I,
I don't know if it's applicable, Rowan, but if there's any way the group or us can help you the next part of your journey, whatever that may be, just reach out, let us know. Um,
Okay.
yeah, but thanks for sharing your chart today. It's this a really, really interesting chart. I probably would have liked to have spent another hour with it. I think there's so much going on in there. But thank you for sharing such a it's a challenging chart, and I'm glad you brought it. Yeah, so it's really relied on the diversity of the group, I think, to uncover that and to get some insight into that. It baffled me. It baffled me. A lot of the things that I use for reading in a chart just did not work on this one. So I'm so glad that Antoinette and Sandra and Gianna and Michael and everybody's been pitching in today. We've all found all these different areas and been able to unlock that and create this collective picture together. It's a great chart. So, and it's nice to see you and meet you too. I feel like it's the first time I've met you today.
And
So,
really interesting.
yeah, cool.
Mhm.
Does anybody else
Well,
have any
this
other
is one of our
thoughts?
new adoptees.
Yeah.
This is Axel.
Oh,
Can I?
I saw a kitty cat over at Renita's house.
okay. That's right.
Yeah, that was Missy.
Oh, Missy.
sure.
Yeah, Miss Sunday. I could just share something quick if that's okay.
Yeah, go for
Really
it.
Yes.
that I saw the first thing that I'm looking at it from a whole sign perspective, so I'm sorry, but I
That's all right.
have a working theory that sometimes Placidus feels a bit more personal and is experienced like through the natives' experience of it, and I feel like whole sign sometimes gives events of a person's life can be a bit predictive. And interestingly enough, in the whole sign, her Saturn is in the 6th house. right? And Saturn would be the traditional ruler of Aquarius. And so in that difficult house placement, usually the house of like sickness and illness,
Yeah.
it kind of, and Saturn, ruling limitations and things like that, it kind of explained a little bit of the disability, perhaps. Also, the Jupiter is right on the ascendant, and it's like a conjunction in the whole sign. So I felt like in retrograde as well, that was the self-taught guru. And I just felt like that was really the energy of your chart is just being led by that. And I thought that was beautiful. And a lot of the things that were mentioned about the north node and south node in the south node in the 11th house, it's actually moved now to the 12th house. And I was just thinking that, anything with foreign lands and that kind of areas that maybe going into the subconscious and kind of bringing those things out that people were talking about to share with others would likely be something that you're probably, I imagine, would want to explore eventually. And it's going to be very transformative and helpful for you. Sorry. So that's all I saw. I mean, I saw some others, but yeah.
Great, thank you.
Cool.
Yeah, that was awesome. Yes.
Yeah,
that
I
makes
love that
perfect
Jupiter
sense.
retrograde
Yes,
constantly.
yes.
It's
Yeah, that makes
interesting too.
perfect
You make
sense.
the distinction between Placidus being personal, which is why I use it for natal chart reading. But what the feedback you're giving about whole houses, it tends to externalize, which is another interesting perspective too. So yeah, no, that's and those shifts in placement that you talk about there, they're very, very interesting.
Oh, I was going to say just one last thing since you
Mm,
mentioned it. Also, the fact that she's moved so much. So
yeah.
the moon is in the fourth house. That's a very literal translation. And I have to say, because that's the exact same thing in my own chart, and I happen to move a lot as well. So that,
Mm,
There you go.
Yeah.
So it made sense.
Yeah,
It's funny
totally
because
makes
all
sense.
of us
So
came from different angles to the chart because I was coming up with my my Capricorn ascendant, you know, and then we changed it. But yeah, it's very closely looking at if it were a whole sign.
mm,
Because I would also have the South Node in the sixth house.
yeah. Okay. Cool.
Interesting.
Bravo.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for today. It's been a really interesting reading. It's been a really challenging one in some aspects, but I think we've done a really, really good job together. And thank you for sharing yourself, Rowan. It's been a really wonderful experience to share with you. So thank you for that.
Thank you for
And
doing the reading. This has been
we,
fascinating.
you are welcome. It's something we say to everybody too, if in 6 months or a year or whatever, there are big changes or anything like that, just let Michael know. Sometimes you're always welcome to come back and we can reevaluate and look again and take another shot at the chart too. So, and that's the best thing about the natal chart. You have the same chart your whole life, but how you read it at different points in your life just changes completely. Especially you've got a splayed pattern too, which is something that's very, very possible in a chart like yours. So thank you, everybody. I'm going to stop recording now, but